3, 2, 1. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf. We are live right now, and today is kind of a special video, and I guess a reminder video of my theory, and I'm going to be talking about the literal end of the world. Again, now, there's a lot of things that have been flung all over the years. Again, people have said that in general, by covering war and things like these and current events, which are things that I care about, that is fear-mongering. Now, I believe that there's a positive way to look at all of this. I do not believe that the next World War III, which I believe is going to happen sooner than later, I do not believe that that is going to be the end of the world. But I have had a side theory about the literal end of the world, or at least an event that would happen that would make all of the events over the past 10 years that I've been following it very closely make sense. Now, there's a lot that's happened over the years, and I probably won't be able to fit it all into one video, but you will probably remember some of the things that I'm going to mention today, and I encourage you to go back and look at our previous shows on this. And you can even go back to videos that I have done as far back as 2019, where I have been, I wouldn't say obsessed with this, but this is a theory that I will stick to my bang bangs on, and I will not get off of it, because I do believe it explains a lot, and I know it will sound crazy. To a chunk of my audience, they will absolutely immediately poo-poo it because it involves anything regarding space. But again, so we're going to talk about that. First of all, as I said back in 2017, 2018, 2019, etc., that again, because here's the other thing. We had, in the very beginning, the first 2 years, we had the Discord open and we had military members, and our Discord ended up getting taken down. But when we had that Discord, we had a military group of active and retired military. We had over 500, and it ended up at like 1,100 or something when it got taken down, something like that, or over 1,000. Now I have no idea how many military are in our midst. But again, we had a lot more, verifiable sources because we had really easy access to it. So again, with this, there was a lot of folks talking about a possible event. Now, some people have talked about a potential event in 2027 where the governments of the world tell us that there's an asteroid coming. Again, I have had this side theory for a while, so you may be right. The people that have this side theory that they're going to project that something's going to hit us, you could be right. But again, I said that as the years got closer, and this is exactly what I was told, that we would see more and more evidence that basically is backlogged that says that that there is more likely something coming our way. And 2029 through 2034 have been really questionable, especially since Apophis. But again, there is an actual story here, which now, again, this is not Apophis. This is a different one. It says that experts says spacecraft could deflect asteroid that has a 2.3% chance of hitting Earth. Now, that may not be the best numbers for, say, winning the lotto, but for an asteroid hitting Earth, that's pretty scary. Cape Canaveral Space Station says NASA and other agencies are studying a large asteroid that was discovered in 2024. So this was just discovered last year. Well, asteroid 2024 YRA has a minute chance of hitting Earth in 7 years. The co-lead of NASA's DART mission says a small spacecraft could deflect the space rock's course. It sounds pretty familiar to, say, a Hollywood film. In fact, back when Don't Look Up came out, I talked about this as well. I'm actually going to go and reference a video here from 2019. Now, remember, this is 2019. This is not live. I'll try to have this on here. Let me unmute it. This is me in 2019. They have found out that it is going to hit Earth, but maybe not on this time around. 3. Do you think it's going to be Cascadia? Do you think it's going to be the supervolcano? Do you think it's this? I don't know which one of those will come first, but what I do know is I believe they have tracked something, and not only tracked it, they have found out that it is going to hit Earth, but maybe not on this time around. Now, China and other countries have all been working on a secret joint project, which now recently came out as China's. But I have found out from several sources that this is a project that also Russia was working on with China. Now, and by the way, that was not public info. I don't believe at that point. Now, I covered this when it came out. China has lasers that can shoot space junk out of the sky. This is the same time that U.S. ships are putting the Project Helios on a Navy ship. Now, this is a laser that can actually knock a missile out of the sky. There is also a lot of different news about the technology in solar flares, and then all of a sudden, boom! And I'm talking not solar flares, I'm sorry, solar sails. So there are several theories on what they could do to get to light speed or to go faster through space. And one of the theories was to put these solar sails that are basically huge solar sails, and the pressure of the sunlight would push it through space. And since there's no atmosphere, supposedly it would just keep going faster and faster and faster and faster. Do something to make sure. I'm going to skip ahead real quick because that is important. The solar flare part is. Or it does not hit the second time around. Now, one of my sources is incredibly knowledgeable about this and was in as late as 2016. And he said that this was a real issue that went across Obama's desk. At least that's what the claim is. And what Obama had to do when flipping over actually had to talk to President DT about this subject. And this was one of the subjects that they had in their first private meeting after the cameras rolled off. They actually went down. They had to basically, they shut all the way up. They went into a secret room. There was no cameras, no nothing. And they talked about several things. One of which is if this thing is going to come by and not hit us in 2029, they would have to come up with a plan and fast. It might sound like a long time away, but if you're talking about an operation like catching an asteroid and trying to do something so it doesn't come back on the second time around, then that would be quite an operation. Now, this is before DART. This is way before DART. This is 2019, right? Back in when Don't Look Up came out, I talked about this, and it was very weird, and I went into the side crazier theories. Now, just remember, go back in time to 2019. This is shortly after the Sunspot Observatory event. Now, I want to show you the Sunspot Observatory event here. This is, if you weren't following back then or you weren't in our community, you probably wouldn't know. But if you've been with me for a long time, then you totally remember this. I covered this, and it was absolutely nuts. So the Sunspot Observatory, which is exactly what it sounds like, an observatory that looks towards the sun. If you know anything about asteroids, or the ones that are supposedly the biggest chance to hit us are the ones that are coming from the sun's direction. The reason why is because the sun is in that direction, and it's harder to see those asteroids, right? So this thing is pointed towards there. All of a sudden, and in this timeline, the way that the timeline went, there was no crazy theories about this. It was exactly how they were reporting it at the time. They did not say anything about this janitor that supposedly had the really bad stuff on his computer right off the bat. There were locals reporting that Black Hawk helicopters were going into Sunspot Observatory, that they came swooping in, that there were guys everywhere. All of a sudden, the post office, which is also in the same area, got closed down, and people were asked to evacuate their home. This is the official thing that it says on the AI overview. It says the observatory was closed for 11 days for a security issue. Now, everybody back then said this does not make any sense, that there's one janitor, a janitor, that works at the Solar Observatory that they supposedly said, oh, he's got bad stuff on his computer, that they would close down for all of this. It says the FBI was investigating a janitor for possession and distribution of that bad stuff, and it says the FBI seized a laptop from the observatory with the bad stuff. It says the janitor became increasingly agitated, and a lot of people don't remember this, and told the chief observer that there was, quote, a serial in the area. So that is why they kind of explained away that they closed down the post office, and they closed and they evacuated everybody and all of this. This whole thing is absolutely wacky, right? Back then, nobody believed it, and some of my peers even went there with drones. Some people went there and live streamed from it. It was a ghost town for 11 days. Now, in this same time period, now if you go back, there's tons of articles about this, and they have changed. If you actually go to the Wayback Machine and look at the news, it has completely changed from what it was. And it's a lot of this is because they have gone back through all of the media and they've fact-checked it, right? And as you guys know, since 2019, there's been a pretty big deal with fact-checking. And remember, the news that we see being made today is going to be history tomorrow. And when you see them tweak it, you should be alarmed. As far as this goes, they essentially say, oh, it's this crazy theory and oh, this has been debunked and there was nothing crazy going on. This guy had something on his computer. At the same time, as the timeline's going, we're all hearing that 6 other observatories were closed down. Now, it's hard to confirm that because when you go look back, there's no record of that I can see. And if you guys can find that, go ahead. But everybody who lived through this event knows that that was something that was talked about at length. People called all of the solar observatories, all of the community called and said, hey, all of these places are closed down. Why would that happen? Well, I believe that the sort of explanation in the moment was that they were all connected via some sort of network. So that the bad stuff on the computer could have been used on this government network, and they were trying to make sure that it was clear and clean and whatever else. A lot of people did not believe that. Around this same time period in 2018, you had, within a year of this, you've got the formulation of the Space Force. Now, I want to give credit to where credit is due. Dex actually spotted this asteroid story today, but Ilea, actually, my mod, sent this to me. I was late to that story because I did believe Reuters came out with it about 2 days ago. But this is a perfect time to refresh the crazy thoughts. How I put it is that essentially, I believe that a lot of the events over the years totally make sense. It's almost like seeing a spider web, but no spider. The analogy I used with Ilea is it's kind of like this other phenomenon that they said was happening where they were looking out into space. They were seeing all of these objects basically being pulled in by a gravity of something. They could see the distortion and something was causing this distortion field, but they couldn't actually see the item itself. Now, that's a whole side story. People thought it was, X. Again, another thing that we've been talking about a lot lately because NATO's task force... NATO just named a Task Force X, by the way, which is creepy. And we're going to talk about how NATO's about to take over Ohio in a chunk and have a whole restricted area. But I digress. As far as the X thing, and as far as back then when this all was going down, this was all around the formulation around this, and it was just absolutely craziness. Now, as far as Sunspot and as far as all of these other things go, over the years, I have seen that they, of course, had all of these stories change, and they've changed the news on a lot of them. If you remember Apophis, I have talked about Apophis, but I've never said that Apophis is necessarily going to be the one. But Apophis, when it first got found, they actually said that the data said that it might hit the Earth. That was a very weird instance. And then the data changed, or they said that they followed it for a couple more days and they changed it. So now if you look, it says, oh, well, it probably won't hit in 2029, 2032, whatever day, or 2034. But then, of course, around this same time period in 2018 was when all of these other weird events happened. Space Force happened, a huge push to go to Mars by 2029, and even Donald Trump said that he was hoping to get there by like the end of 2028 or before 2030. Why was this so, this deadline? If you look at Agenda 2030 and all of these different things that are kind of putting into play. A lot of this stuff, as far as it's like you can see the event and you can see their responses to it, but you can't see the actual reason why. Now, if you inserted this into a math equation, if you inserted that there was something that they knew about, that they tracked, or even if they were planning to fake one, if you saw that, then a lot of the things that have been going on lately would actually make sense, like the actual asteroid drill they did in New York, where they basically practiced, on a tabletop, evacuating 9 million residents because, an asteroid hits New York. All of this sounds absolutely crazy, I know. But again, this is something I've stuck to my guns on all decade, and I swear it is crazy because more and more stuff keeps coming and keeps happening. Fast forward, you have the DART mission, the Double Asteroid Redirection Test, which most of you probably followed because it was a big deal. They ended up saying that they hit this asteroid, Didymos, the two, whatever the other one name is, with an asteroid craft, right? They smacked right into it. I talked about this back in 2017. HAMMER, Hypervelocity and Asteroid Mitigation Emergency Response Vehicle. We've seen these things only in the movies, like, Apocalypse and Asteroid and all of these other flicks, right? Well, Don't Look Up came out, and of course you had Adam McKay, who normally did or was most known for his true to life stories. He's actually done a bunch of true to life, like where he's documenting and essentially bringing to the Hollywood scene, these true stories. Well, in his actual trailer, at first for Don't Look Up, before the initial trailers, you guys can go look this up, he says, based on a true story, ... that hasn't happened yet. Now, Adam McKay and their team was actually tied with the DART operation. DART actually advertised Don't Look Up, and Don't Look Up actually advertised DART. Now, they tried to tell us that it was an allegory for the weather change, and that we all need to, not listen to people saying don't look up, and we need to go look at the obvious thing in our face. But I almost think that it's almost a joke, because the obvious thing in our face, if there was something coming here, would the government tell us so? And you see the personality of somebody like Donald come in. When he comes in and he finds out about this, it's like instantly, overnight, we have a Space Force. Now, of course, in this time around, he's all saying he's about to possibly take Greenland. Now, we've also seen the movie Greenland, and I know that all of these things sound like, totally like scatterbrained things. But again, you have Greenland as one of the most rumored places, as a place that somebody would go if some sort of asteroid hit Earth. Now, for those of you that say, oh, well, yeah, they already exposed this and there's going to be a hoax in 2027, you very well could be right. And what if people were sniffing that 10 years ago? What if this is going to be some sort of blue beam thing where they essentially have us all unite under this, thing that's coming our way to put the enemy and the target on somebody else, that we all get together? After dividing us, after splitting us up, after screwing over the whole world, locking us down for years and whatever else, essentially they try to put us back together under a whole new system. That is a possibility as well. But one thing I do know is none of the stuff that has happened over the years really makes a lot of sense, especially like videos that, of course, if you remember, there was a video of a gentleman who was supposedly military. He was in full garb, went live on YouTube. And this is, again, something that you can go look up YouTube videos. Everybody talked about it. Excuse me, Everybody talked about this back years ago, where there was supposedly a live stream of this guy talking about how the moon was going to get hit. Now, that spiraled out of control, the rumor mill, and everybody ended up posting fake videos of a moon getting impacted video, and then it all got mixed up. But the original story goes is this guy got on a live stream, had a couple 100,000 by the 30-minute mark, and was taken down, and that somebody was knocking on the door and basically took him out. Again, I never saw this. A lot of people say they did. Again, I didn't. But again, when you go back and look at this, everybody started talking about this, and what this guy said was that they are not worried about an asteroid hitting Earth. They are worried about an asteroid hitting the moon. And if you think about all of the moon bases that they say that they're putting up, China putting some sort of structure on the far side of the moon, everybody, including Israel, trying to get to the moon, all of the rich people since 2016 that have, instead of invested in land or farming stuff, they have invested in rocket companies. I mean, you have Blue Origin, you have Virgin, you have, of course, SpaceX, you have all of these rich elites, and one of their big goals is to get off Earth. Now, I know this sounds crazy, but what if? And that is a big what if. What if there really is something that is coming? Would they tell us? I do not think so. So again, I would love to hear all of the side things that you have seen over the last few years that you believe fit into this puzzle. But again, it very well could be some sort of op that's been going on for a very long time. But if you look at some of the things that have happened over the years, if you inserted that into the math equation, it would actually make more logical sense than some of the crazier things they said. This sunspot solar observatory thing, nobody believes this still to this day. This thing was absolutely crazy. And then, of course, an easy way to debunk it, add CP, something that nobody wants to talk about. Right away, after they said what they were looking for and that this guy had stuff on his computer, immediately, everybody stopped talking about it at work. Nobody wants to talk about that taboo stuff. And then to the other crowd that still talked about it, they then brought in UFO stuff and said, oh, there's possibly UFO. Anytime there's a Black Hawk helicopter, that gives that community, they go, well, why are they there? Are they there because of UFOs? Which then delegitimizes all of the actual questions about the event. It makes perfect sense that a solar observatory would have spotted something coming from the sun and say, what if it actually went more like this, where they spotted something, they realized it's on a government network, it was being monitored, they go in, they went and cleaned out all of the network, they went to the post office to make sure that nobody sent anything physical out, closed it down, then questioned everybody in this area, evacuated them, and asked them, do you know anything? Have you talked to this guy? Have you talked to anybody that works at this place? Which were the questions they asked. I don't believe that there was a serial, and basically the suspect said, oh yeah, there's another guy here and he's really crazy, and that's why they shut it down. It doesn't make a lot of sense. You use your common sense, put on your thinking hat. As far as some of the other things, there's a million other things that could fit into this. And you would say, oh, maybe this is connecting dot from dot and all over the place. But honestly, if you've been following this and following my channel, then you probably know, because I've actually covered these things all, piece by piece over the years. And anybody that's followed me for a very long time actually probably knows all of these things as well. Of course, a lot of people said and theorized, I'll just show you on X when I posted this, there was a lot of great comments, a lot of great things that popped up here. So I actually posted on X, and I said, as we get closer, I believe this will go up and up. So over the 7 years that the governments of the world are preparing for. Watch this video. And again, there's more. This whole video talks about it that I did back in 2019. And you'll notice, you can go to 2022, 2024. I have kept essentially the same theory, that I believe that they may have tracked something and they know something. Down to even where we all were witnessing a comet a few years ago, and they said on a Monday that it was there and that it was going to be as bright as the moon's sky, and then on a Wednesday, all of a sudden they said, oh, it just dissolved. Something that's been around for billions of years, and I forget what the name of that one was, all of a sudden just said, oh, it just blew up in front of us. In our little tiny human lives, we just happened to see it blow up on that day. Now, let me pop this up. So look at the responses here. We've got maybe 2031 Elon could install plasma thrusters powered by a compact fusion reactor. Haynes said, would explain governments prepping. Need to justify spending the money just to see if they survive. They'll launch minor wars. They know that the toll is going to be enormous. Most everyone has a clock ticking. Old, young, doesn't matter. More humane to perish early. No plans. Right? And then you have, it says, what about 9992 Apophis, April 29th? Have we forgotten about this one? I said, I haven't, but it may be one of many. The thing is Apophis was also a weird thing. But what if that's not the only one? Some actually speculated a couple years ago, and when you have thousands and thousands of people speculating about a certain thing, usually some truth comes out of it. Like the story about Walmart's actually encasing people, right? Nobody believed that at first too, and they actually took people down for that. But then we found out that they turned Walmart's into these basically, temporary prisons. There was all sorts of things that over the years we thought was totally crazy, and it wouldn't get let down. Like people would not let it go. This was one of them. One of them was that, of course, something was going on, and that we were possibly going through a space debris field, or that we were going to. We, of course, had a Muamua, which they said is UFOs, which totally delegitimizes that one as well. Or it could be a legitimate UFO. Interstellar rock. Then we had a second interstellar rock where FBI closed down a town and looked all through the waters. A third interstellar rock. I mean, it's just weird. And they named it a Scout, right? there was all these weird space events around this whole thing. All the meanwhile, they're getting money for DART and Hammer and all of these other missions. Great Reset is underway, calling this year WW3 asteroid is the least of our worries. Katie Sapphire says the one in 2030 will hit the moon. See, that's a thought that a lot of people have had over the years. The one in 2030 will hit the moon. This is a debris field. They have cities underneath. And I want to add one of the most verified things as far as the scary thing. I'm going to bring in my co-internet brother. He's going to get a whole lot more airtime on the next show over on TV because we're going to talk about everything else. But Dex, do you remember the person we vetted? Well, first off, I'll say hi. Dex, what's going on and how are you doing today?
Hey, hello, Adam. I'm doing great.
So, do you remember the lady that we talked to? That we vetted. We checked her actual, status as an employee.
Yeah, she was auditing records or accounting for a federal group or something, but specifically around FEMA, and had found that they were spending a significant amount of money on debris cleanup.
And what was it for? Do you remember what it was for? A class?
Well, she said, class something gas giant.
Class 2 gas giant. And the crazy part about it wasn't even that. It was the amount of money was otherworldly money. And if you look back in the past few years, all of a sudden we're $30-something trillion in debt. They have repeatedly told us they don't know where a ton of this money has gone. They essentially say, even with this last thing where they said, oh, we did an accounting error and we found $8 billion more or whatever. They're constantly telling us that they have no idea where the damn money was spent, which is timely because now they have Doge going through almost everything and saying, wow, they're spending $50 million on condoms and this and this and that. It makes more sense, and the most logical answer usually is, but what if there is a big asteroid that will totally destroy Earth? It's coming in 2032, but what if the scientists of the world, they kept it quiet, and they tell us after they say, hey, but don't worry, we figured out a procedure. Now, we figured out a way to knock it down. Now, Don't Look Up actually talks about it, shows this kind of situation where the Facebook guy, this rich guy, essentially stops a mission. They have 6 months until this thing's about to hit Earth in this movie. And they have this Facebook kind of guy, this guy who's supposed to represent like a Gates / Zuckerberg. He sees money in it. He goes, man, there's enough resources and lithium on that, that asteroid to run Earth for, millions of years. So he ends up sending his own things. He delays the actual impactors and the mission to put it off course, and it ends up screwing them in the end. But one thing that was pointed out, and if you look at the time frame from even the first frame of that movie, it actually shows a very real meme that Elon Musk posted, where it essentially shows an astronaut on the moon, and it says, well, people are worried about, the stock market, and it shows an asteroid going through Earth and poking a hole through it, and he says, right? And he goes, meanwhile, and something like that gets overlooked, and people go, he's just trolling, right? But that meme was used in the very first scene. A lot of the different things in that movie represented, essentially, they changed the names and they rearranged things, and they did a satire on it. The woman president was supposed to represent like a Donald Trump, right? They totally even did stories like, the smoking story. That's totally related to how his numbers went up when they found out he did bad things, right? Which was a very specific thing. There was a lot of specific things in that movie that make you go, did they just change the names and the people of a certain time period and basically told us the background on it? It was very, very weird. If you go to that movie, they end up talking about the millions of dollars. Back a few years ago in the same time frame as that meme was put out, and Elon kept doing these hints towards like, this is getting off Earth is the key to saving human civilization. Around that same time, you saw all of these articles essentially stating that there was trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars on these asteroids. The same thing that they showed in Don't Look Up. The connections between Adam McKay and the people that made that movie and the whole crew, the actual production companies, everything, very spooky if you look at who their friends are. It's just bizarre. And of course it's Hollywood, but we're talking about connections with Gates, connections with NASA, connections with all of this weird stuff. And it makes you wonder, like, is there something that's right out in front of our faces, but we are so just blind to see it because they just put some other piece of information there? Again, there's so much more, and I couldn't get it to one video. But my theory is, again, that there may very well possibly be something that's on its way. And the governments of the world have now all worked together on different projects, including space lasers, things that can essentially knock everything out. And again, I just want to remind people, you actually had Donald recently say that they were going to build an Iron Dome in the United States. Now, they didn't say it's going to be the Iron Dome. They're saying essentially a defense mechanism, and they're going to start building these launchers in the United States. Who knows what they're actually for? If not, then the other alternative is that it's for a potential war or attacks on the USA. If you look at his actions in office, one thing is for sure, he hears something in a meeting and he goes, okay, let's fix it. He doesn't wait. He just goes, let's do it. And if you see the things that he has done over the years, it's very, very creepy. We don't know what's said in top, classified meetings, and I don't know when or where or what asteroid it would be. But I do have a theory that they may have tracked one. And who knows, maybe it's the least of our worries, because beforehand, everybody now is grabbing land. Every country in the world, if you went back 5-6 years ago, it would be crazy to think that Russia's taking Ukraine, one of the best farmlands. You've got, China and Taiwan, and China possibly trying to take up whole chunks of it. You've got North Korea and South Korea. You've got Venezuela and Guyana. You have and then you have the U.S., Donald saying we're going to take possibly Greenland, and things happening in the background where people are stepping down, and investments and investments and investments into space. To many of you, I know that it will be totally, poo-pooed right away. But I would say, now that you've heard this, when you spot things, you're going to see exactly what I see. And I think that I will look less crazy over time goes. And I think that that's proving itself with more and more stories about this, and more information about possible things hitting us anywhere from 2029 to 2034. Very, very insane, I know. And who knows, maybe that is why the world is about to go to war. Everybody is going to be a war for resources before all this stuff happens. Not to mention, last thing I'll talk about on this is DUMBs. Mentioned in the responses to this about the mystery sounds all across the United States. People have basically had things fall off their shelves. You've got mystery booms. People have felt it. They know it. The news, local news in several states, you can go find clips of this all across the country, have essentially said, well, they hear this big trombone sound, they feel things shake, but they can't put a finger on it. There is no seismic activity. So how the hell are thousands, if not millions of people feeling shaking and it's not registering on the seismic? Is that meaning that something is being done underneath us? You've got, of course, Elon's three main companies that I think will play a part. You've got SpaceX to launch the rocket with the BFR. You've got Neuralink to possibly to basically hack into your brain. That would be something very useful on a 5-month or a 5-year trip in a rocket to basically hook your brain up to a computer. And you have, of course, all of the electric. Oh, and then the Boring Company. One of his other companies that a lot of people overlook. Throughout all of this, he has kept all of his government contracts. No matter how controversial he's gotten, he's kept his contracts because his companies know and are doing some really crazy stuff. The Boring Company is literally a company that bores holes in the ground underground. Put 4 and 4 together, 8 and 8 together, 16 and 16 together. I know I'll be made fun of for it, and I've been made fun of it for years. But I believe that in the end, it will end up start vindicating itself, at least with declassification of some things. Again, make sure to let me know what you think in the comments down below. And if you want to support us, I'm an independent journalist. We are completely independent. We're on our own. If you want to go support us and save yourself at the same time, go check out Jace. It's a great service. From the comfort of your couch, you can get an emergency kit, again, with emergency antibiotics, all of the most commonly prescribed ones right in a handy kit. You can also add on things like, of course, albuterol, and even that stuff that Joe Rogan took that CNN hated. I did want to get back to roots because I honestly believe there's a lot of things that have been overlooked over the last few years, and this is one that I really think is something that really sticks out. If you really look into it, the more you look into it, I think the more you'll find the less and less crazy it actually sounds. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Join us for the regular show where we have tons of news, and we also have web-only content tonight on our website. If you want to find a full source list and a bibliography for every single show, make sure to go to the website, marfooglenews.com. You can click today's show, Clock is Ticking, and you can find that video from 2019, and there's many others. Just go to the website, and up in the upper right-hand corner, you can type in asteroid. You can type in don't look up. You can type in all sorts of stuff. You'll see the different things as I put it out. Keep in mind, there's been a lot of military members in our group that have completely agreed on this and that have said that they will not tell us, and that there are odd things that have been going on above their heads, and meetings that have happened right before formulations of SpaceX and all of Space Force. So again, you be the judge. Tell me what you think. I know it sounds totally nuts. Love you guys. I'll see you on the next show in a few minutes. If you're in the chat, all you have to do is stay there. You'll be ported over. If you're watching the replay, all you have to do is click here.